At the start of the story, we are introduced to Dr. Kanji, a world-renowned physician whose life took a dramatic turn after the untimely death of his younger sister from an incurable illness. Haunted by her memory and driven by grief, he vowed to dedicate his entire existence to the pursuit of a universal cure, one that could eradicate all diseases. Over the years, his relentless dedication earned him international acclaim. Yet, in his obsession, he began neglecting his own well-being. He worked day and night, often forgetting to eat or rest, pushing his body far beyond its limits. One evening, exhausted and bleary-eyed, he decided to take a short break. He set a timer for 40 minutes and collapsed onto his office sofa. But when the alarm rang, he didn't stir. Hours passed. The whole day, something had gone terribly wrong. The next time his eyes fluttered open, the world around him was entirely different. A radiant young girl stood beside his bed, smiling brightly and calling him Pharma. Disoriented, Kanji tried to sit up, only to discover his body felt weak and unfamiliar. Before he could process anything, a nurse entered the room, scolding him for getting out of bed. She informed him he had been struck by lightning and had been unconscious for several days. Stunned, he apologized, admitting he remembered nothing. When she handed him a mirror, his shock deepened. Staring back at him was not the face of a grown man, but that of a 10-year-old boy. The boy's name, as the nurse confirmed, was Pharma. Though Kanji couldn't recall anything from this new life, his memories from his past life as a doctor were intact. Confused and overwhelmed, he tried to make sense of it all. Curious about his condition, he asked the nurse if he could remove his bandages. She agreed and left to fetch warm water. As she carefully unwrapped his hand, a mysterious mark was revealed. The sight of it made her gasp and drop her bowl. Trying to calm her, Pharma suggested it might just be a lightning scar. But the nurse, clearly shaken, began to pray. She told him that the mark was sacred, proof of a blessing from the god of medicine. That name struck a chord with him. Intrigued, he asked who this god was, to which she replied that his family had long worshipped the deity, being royal pharmacists who served the royal family. Introducing herself as Laut, the nurse began guiding Pharma through the palace. She explained that his family possessed not only vast medical knowledge, but also magical talent. As she showed him a family portrait, she spoke of their ability to use elemental magic. When Pharma hesitantly asked if he could use magic too, Laut's face turned pale. Forgetting magic was considered dangerous, enough to get someone cast out of town. When he admitted he had no memory of it, she panicked momentarily, but quickly urged him to keep it a secret. Determined to help, Laut reminded him that he once excelled at water magic and encouraged him to start practicing. Alone in his room, Pharma focused deeply, imagining water molecules as he once imagined cellular structures in his old life. To his astonishment, water began to flow from his hands, but it kept coming more and more until he panicked and flung it away. Outside, Laut witnessed the surge and her eyes lit up with hope. Pharma could still use magic. Fueled by curiosity and the thrill of discovery, Pharma continued experimenting. He concentrated harder and managed to control the molecules, lifting and shaping the water with precision. Just then, Laut returned and, impressed by his progress, led him to his personal library. She told him that every book there had once been read by him. Picking up a volume, Pharma was amazed to realize he could read and understand it effortlessly. Though the world around him was strange and magical, Pharma, once Dr. Kanji, began to sense that this new life was giving him a second chance, one where medicine and magic intertwined, and where perhaps the universal cure he once dreamed of might finally be within reach. Later that evening, Pharma joins his family for dinner. His father, a stern yet regal presence at the head of the table, looks over at him with a mixture of relief and curiosity. Seeing him healthy again, he expresses his happiness at Pharma's recovery. But then, his tone shifts, calm yet serious. He reminds Pharma of a promise. Once he was better, he would answer a few questions. His mother gently interjects, urging him to wait a little longer since Pharma had only just recovered. But Pharma, steady and composed, assures them he is ready to speak. His father begins asking questions about family, rituals, and personal knowledge. Pharma answers with cautious confidence, relying on observation and instinct. Satisfied, his father nods approvingly and declares that now, since he is fully recovered, it is time to resume his training. This catches Pharma off guard. Training? He doesn't recall any of that, but he masks his confusion and agrees. The next morning, he meets his personal tutor, Erin, a young woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. The moment she sees him, her eyes narrow. The Pharma she knew was arrogant and dismissive, but the boy standing before her is calm, polite, and strangely different. Sensing her suspicion, Pharma quickly explains that the lightning strike may have frozen part of his memory. Erin pauses, then slowly accepts the explanation. She asks if he remembers anything about divine arts. He doesn't. Her expression darkens with concern. Without delay, she begins explaining the fundamentals of divine art and decides to start their training by the riverside. She tells him to draw his magical staff, but Pharma has no idea what she's talking about. Embarrassed, he admits he didn't bring one. Erin sighs and hands him her own, demonstrating how it's done with a quick and elegant spell. Her magic dances on the water, fluid and controlled. When Pharma tries, he mimics her gesture and unleashes a surge of raw magical power that splits the river's surface in a violent burst. Erin stares, stunned. She rushes to him, giving him a magic meter to measure his energy. The moment Pharma channels his power into the tool, it shatters in her hands. She stumbles back, visibly shaken. That level of magic was unheard of, divine or possibly demonic. Later, the two sit on a bench beneath a tree, the silence thick with uncertainty. Erin, still in shock, can barely look at him. Wanting to lighten the mood, Pharma tries cracking a few harmless jokes. To his surprise, Erin lets out a small laugh. The tension eases. In that moment of calm, something strange happens. Pharma's eyes glow faintly, and he sees something odd. Erin's fingers and eyes flicker with light in his vision. He steps forward, gently holding her hand, and asks if she has pain in her fingers. Startled, Erin demands to know how he figured that out. Pharma explains he saw the glow. He doesn't know how, but it's like the injuries revealed themselves to him. Erin stares at him in disbelief. Powers like that aren't ordinary. Trembling, she whispers, "Who are you?" and runs away, afraid. The next day, Pharma learns that Erin has fallen ill and won't be continuing his training. His father hands him a bottle of medicine and asks him to deliver it to her personally. Curious, Pharma inspects the contents. The formula is average, effective, but not potent. In his lab, he quietly enhances it using his pharmaceutical knowledge and magic. Then, with the improved medicine in hand, he heads to Erin's home. Erin answers the door completely veiled, her body shielded as if expecting danger. She eyes him warily and accuses him of coming to finish what he started. Pharma calmly assures her that he means no harm. Removing her mask, she reveals the severity of her illness. Her skin pale, her breath shallow. She asks why he's come. He gently offers the medicine and explains that his father sent it, though he adjusted it to work more effectively. Erin backs away. "You tamper with it?" she accuses. "Did you poison it?" Pharma shakes his head. "Why would I harm my teacher?" he says softly. "I only want to help." He leaves the medicine beside her, along with a bouquet of healing flowers, and walks away. Something in his words stays with her. The next morning, Erin appears at the training ground, wearing protective armor. She tells Pharma that she's still cautious, his power is immense, but she believes him now. The medicine worked. They begin training again. This time, Erin watches in awe as Pharma demonstrates spell after spell, his control growing rapidly. She realizes his talent is not only rare, it's revolutionary. That evening, Pharma sits alone, quietly using his divine eye to scan his surroundings. One by one, he detects lingering injuries among the servants, subtle signs they hadn't even mentioned. Then Laut passes by. He scans her as well and sees something alarming, damage in her hands. Without saying a word, He retreats to his lab and begins crafting a new batch of medicine, carefully blending herbs and magic. By nightfall, he approaches Lout and hands her a vial. She hesitates, then drinks. Relief washes over her almost instantly. Tears glimmer in her eyes as she thanks him. One by one, he shares the medicine with the other servants. Word spreads, and gratitude fills the air. Lout looks at Pharma with pride and emotion. One old caretaker, voice trembling with emotion, said, "We're lucky to be in this house to receive medicine from a royal pharmacist. But out there in the streets, people are dying, not from disease, but from helplessness. No food, no cure, no hope." The word struck Pharma like a thunderclap. That night, long after the candles burned low, he sat by his window, eyes lost in thought. No one should die simply because they can't afford medicine, he thought. I will create a world where no one suffers like that again. The next day at breakfast, Pharma noticed an empty seat at the table. His little sister was missing. He looked up. Where's Blanche? His father's expression hardened slightly. She's been quarantined. The doctor says she has chickenpox, highly contagious. No one is allowed near her. The moment Pharma heard chickenpox, his thoughts raced. Asterisk, that's easily treatable. I know the cure. Asterisk, without wasting time, he went to his lab, quickly mixed an antiviral solution from his pharmaceutical memory, and infused it into a light, sweet broth. That night, cloaked in silence, Pharma sneaked into Blanche's room. She looked pale, but cheerful. "Brother, you're not supposed to be here," she whispered. "Papa said no one should come near me." Pharma winked and whispered, "This is our secret, all right? You won't tell anyone." Then he gently fed her the medicine. Days passed. Soon, Blanche was back to her cheerful self, running in the garden, free of any symptoms. The household staff called it a miracle, but Pharma knew it was medicine and determination. Later, in his lab, Pharma began building a new tool, a mini microscope. "I can't keep relying on the divine eye," he muttered. "I need something every doctor can use." Just as he was finishing the lens assembly, a messenger burst in. "Young master, the Lord requests your presence immediately." Moments later, standing in his father's office, Pharma was told, "Pack your bags. We leave at once for the royal kingdom." The next day, they arrived at the capital's grand palace. The tension was thick in the air. The princess, it turned out, was gravely ill, on the brink of death. The royal court had summoned the greatest pharmacists from every corner of the land, including Pharma's father. One by one, the experts examined her, whispering, debating, ultimately shaking their heads. The disease was too advanced, too strange. Even Pharma's father stepped back and declared with a heavy heart, "There is nothing more I can do." Pharma stood frozen, watching helplessly as hope drained from everyone's faces. He activated his divine eye. In a moment of clarity, he saw the truth: tuberculosis, a disease that, in his old world, required antibiotics and injections. But here, such treatments didn't even exist. Suddenly, the doors burst open and the princess's children ran in, clutching their mother's hand, sobbing. "Please don't leave us, Mama, please." Something in Pharma snapped. He couldn't stand still anymore. Heart pounding, he stepped forward. I might be able to help." Gasps filled the room. One noble barked, "Boy, do not disturb the queen." Pharma's father turned sharply. "Pharma, don't be reckless. This isn't a practice lab." But the queen raised her hand. Her voice was soft but firm. "Everyone else has failed. If you believe you can save me, then you have my permission." Without a second thought, Pharma sprinted to the palace lab. He sealed the door shut with a blast of ice magic. Bottles clinked, flasks hissed, and blue light danced around him as he worked. Outside, his father banged on the door. "Pharma, open this door. You don't understand what you're doing. If anything goes wrong." Inside, Pharma didn't flinch. His mind was a storm of calculations and memory. He ground herbs, distilled compounds, and used molecular visualization to design an antibiotic formula from scratch. Furious, his father blasted the door open. "Enough!" he shouted, stepping into the icy lab. Stop this madness before it destroys you. But Pharma stood calmly at his workstation, unshaken. If you stop me now, she'll die, he said. I won't let that happen. In a moment of panic and desperation, his father raised his hand and launched a wave of ice magic at Pharma. To deflect the incoming spell, Pharma instinctively raised his hand. A shimmering shield of light and ice formed instantly in front of him, intercepting his father's attack and dissolving it in midair. The residual magic formed a barrier between them, locking the two in a silent standoff. His father froze, stunned. A barrier spell? Without a magical staff? His eyes widened as the realization hit him. Who are you? Before Pharma could respond, his father's gaze shifted to a nearby desk, specifically the open pages of Pharma's research diary. He strode over, picked it up, and flipped through the complex diagrams and unfamiliar medicinal formulas. What is all this? Pharma took a breath. These are new medicine formulas. They came to me in dreams while I was unconscious. I memorized them. His father stared at him in silence. Then slowly he nodded. I see. I also noticed the divine mark on your shoulder. Now I understand. You've been blessed by the god of medicine. He stepped back. That must be why you're having these visions. All right, I trust you. Do your work. With that, his father turned and left. Pharma returned to his task, his hands steady, heart resolved. Hours later, the medicine was ready. The next day, he brought it to the royal palace. Standing before the queen, he addressed her with calm determination. Your Majesty, your illness is caused by an infection called tuberculosis. This medicine may take 1 to 2 years to fully cure you. You must be prepared for a long treatment. He then took a small sample of her blood, placed it under his handcrafted microscope, and showed her the harmful bacteria, visible proof of the disease. The onlookers, including the best pharmacists in the kingdom, were awestruck. To demonstrate the medicine's safety, Pharma poured 2 doses into crystal glasses. He drank one himself and offered the other to the queen. Now, both our lives depend on this medicine. Moments passed in silence. Then, the queen's color began to return, her breathing steadier. Her cheeks flushed slightly. Murmurs filled the room, then applause. The pharmacists bowed their heads in respect. Pharma and his father returned home as heroes. 9 months later, Pharma visited the queen for a follow-up. After checking her condition, he smiled. You're recovering well, Your Majesty. She took his hand, her voice thick with emotion. There was a time when I had given up on life, but one person rekindled the will to live in me. It wasn't a healer or a sage. It was my youngest son who reminded me to hope again. Her eyes glistened. And you, young Pharma, gave me the means to live. Pharma bowed deeply, heart swelling with gratitude. Please continue to take care of yourself, Your Majesty. Soon after, a grand ceremony was held in the royal palace. Pharma and his father arrived dressed in their finest clothes. The queen stood before her throne to bestow honors. First, she acknowledged Pharma's father, honoring him for his years of service. Then, she turned to Pharma. With bravery, compassion, and extraordinary skill, she declared, this young man has achieved what even the greatest minds could not. I hereby grant him the title of Royal Pharmacist. You may now open a pharmacy anywhere in the capital. The hall erupted in applause. Pharma stood tall, his dream within reach. Back at the mansion, brimming with excitement, he called for a team of carpenters. We're opening the pharmacy immediately, but one question remained: what to name it? After some thought, he smiled. We'll name it the Parallel World Pharmacy. When the carpenters unveiled the signboard with the name carved in bold letters, Ellen arrived. Seeing it, she clapped her hands with delight. That's a beautiful name. Pharma blushed slightly. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Ellen leaned closer. So, tell me, what exactly will this pharmacy do? Before Pharma could answer, a well-dressed stranger appeared. Excuse me, the man said smoothly. Are you just an employee here or the owner? Pharma smiled. I'm the owner. The man raised an eyebrow. Impressive. You're so young. I have a great business proposal. Let's collaborate. We can make a lot of money. Pharma shook his head. No, I'm not interested. The man frowned. You'll regret that. What will you even gain from this on your own? Pharma answered firmly. What is there for me to earn? I don't want wealth. I want to help people. I just want to provide affordable medicine to the poor so it truly benefits them, Pharma said calmly. The man was taken aback. If you do that, your pharmacy will fail. You'll run out of money in no time. But I'll save you, join my team. You'll be rich in no time. Pharma shook his head. I'm not interested. The man's smile faded, and he began to pressure Pharma. Think carefully. Without support, you'll go nowhere. Ellen, standing nearby, had heard enough. She stepped forward, eyes blazing. Are you going to leave on your own, or do you want to get beaten up? Faced with Ellen's fury, the man scoffed but backed down. You'll regret this, he muttered as he turned and left. Pharma exhaled, then walked into the pharmacy. Inside, he looked around. Other than himself, there was only one other helper. We need more workers, he thought. Just then, Latte walked in shyly. I can work here. I already do everything at home. Cleaning, cooking, organizing. Pharma smiled warmly. You're hired. Even with Latte on board, they were still missing someone to manage the accounts. We need an experienced accountant, he murmured. Later that day, Pharma returned home and noticed something strange. All the household staff were crying. Concerned, he asked, what happened? One of the maids tearfully explained. The master's accountant is retiring today. His legs hurt so much he can barely walk. Pharma found the old accountant resting quietly. If I treat your legs, would you be willing to work in my pharmacy? He asked. The accountant looked up in surprise. If you can really heal me, yes, I'd be honored. Pharma went to his father for permission. Father, may I hire your retiring accountant for my pharmacy? His father nodded. Of course, he's trustworthy. Then he handed Pharma a chest filled with gold coins. Use this to expand your pharmacy. I believe in you. The very next day, the Parallel World Pharmacy opened with much excitement. But just opening a business doesn't guarantee success. A whole month passed with barely any customers. Only one old man came by, and all he bought was a candy. Pharma and his team grew anxious. Then, one day, two cloaked figures entered the shop. Despite their disguises, Pharma immediately recognized them, his parents. Smiling faintly, he welcomed them in. My pharmacy, it isn't doing well, Pharma admitted. No one's coming, and I don't know why. Show us around, his father said. Pharma led them through the clean medicine storeroom, then to the patient beds. Everything's ready. Do you see any problems? His father looked around. No, everything is perfect. His mother stepped forward thoughtfully. Why not create beauty products too? Affordable, high-quality items for women that might attract more people. Pharma's eyes lit up. That's a brilliant idea. His father added, just make sure you don't use any harsh chemicals. The skin is delicate. As they continued discussing, a man suddenly burst into the pharmacy, breathless. Is there a pharmacist here? Please, it's urgent. A girl's condition has worsened. Pharma immediately followed him. They arrived at a home where a young girl lay pale and trembling. Using his divine eye, Pharma examined her and saw deep cuts on her arms and severe blood loss. Without hesitation, he brought her to the pharmacy and began treatment. Once stabilized, he gently asked her, "Why did you do this?" Tears welled in the girl's eyes. I was rejected by someone I liked. I felt worthless. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Ellen took her hand, voice soft but firm. It's okay. Just promise us you won't do this again. The girl nodded, sobbing quietly. A few days later, she returned to the pharmacy, visibly healthier. Pharma had just finished his first batch of beauty products and offered her a few samples. After using them, the girl's expression lit up. They're amazing, she said, glowing with joy. Soon after, Latte helped distribute samples around town, especially to the local women. Word spread quickly. Pharma's products were not only effective but also affordable. Slowly, customers began arriving at the pharmacy. First a few, then a crowd. The Parallel World Pharmacy was no longer empty. It was thriving. With the popularity of his beauty products skyrocketing, Pharma decided to open a separate branch dedicated solely to cosmetics. He hired several skilled beauticians and herbalists to increase production and maintain quality. Soon, his pharmacy business was booming, and his beauty line became the talk of the capital. Eventually, word of these miraculous products reached the royal palace. The queen summoned Pharma for a personal consultation. During their meeting, Pharma presented her with a lip balm infused with natural extracts. The moment she applied it, her lips became visibly softer and more vibrant. "This is marvelous," she said, admiring herself in a mirror. Pharma then explained the ingredients and the benefits of his beauty line. The queen nodded thoughtfully. "Your products are excellent, but their prices are too low. Other businesses are unable to compete. If this continues, many will go bankrupt. You must raise your prices, not only for balance, but to reflect their value." Pharma paused, realizing she was right. "I hadn't considered that. I'll make the adjustments." Later, we see Pharma with his younger sister, Latte, and Ellen at the beach, enjoying a rare day off. While Ellen naps in the shade, Pharma's sister begs him to join them in the water. "Please, big brother, just a little." "No," he replied. "Father told us not to go in." But she and Latte continue to plead, their voices full of laughter and excitement. Finally, Pharma relented. "Fine, but be careful." His sister beamed and ran off into the waves. She called back to him, "Come with us." Pharma smiled faintly, but shook his head. As he watched her play, a memory surged, his late younger sister, whose life had been cut short. His smile faded, and he sat down, tears falling silently. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air. Pharma's eyes shot up. His sister was drowning. Panic seized him as he rushed into the water. "Not again," he thought. "I can't lose her too." He swam frantically, diving beneath the surface, but the currents dragged her deeper. His hands grasped at empty water. Desperate and overcome by emotion, he screamed, and at that moment, an overwhelming force burst from his body. The ocean itself split apart, creating a massive pit in the sea, with water rushing away in all directions. The world seemed to freeze. Pharma stood there, chest heaving, his sister floating beside him, now safe, but he stared at his own hands in horror. Ellen had seen everything. Shocked, she whispered that wasn't just magic. It was later revealed that Pharma had unknowingly used a forbidden technique. *** negative divine art ***, something only demons were said to possess. Though he believed no one else had witnessed it, a hidden figure had been watching. The observer quickly reported to the Holy Group, a religious order that viewed unnatural powers as heresy. Their leader, Solomon, became convinced that Pharma was possessed by a demon. To monitor him, Solomon dispatched 2 agents to spy on Pharma. Unaware of the eyes on him, Pharma returned to his pharmacy, but the tension only increased. The next day, a horse covered in filth suddenly barged into the pharmacy, knocking over shelves and smashing containers. It was chaos. Bruno, Pharma's father, was informed of the disturbance. "This wasn't an accident," he said grimly. "Someone is targeting us." The following day, as Pharma arrived to clean up, he found some of his loyal customers already there with brooms and cloths, offering help. Latte directed the efforts, and soon the townspeople joined in, lifting his spirits. Just then, a young girl ran up to him, breathless. "Please, my father collapsed in the forest. Come quickly." Without hesitation, Pharma grabbed his medical kit and followed her deep into the woods. But as soon as they arrived, she vanished. "What?" he whispered, scanning the area. Before he could make sense of it, white-robed figures emerged from the shadows, surrounding him. At their center stood Solomon, eyes hard and cold. "We know what you are," Solomon declared. "That power you used, only demons possess it. We are here to exorcise you." Pharma stood still, stunned. "I'm not possessed. You're making a mistake." But the Holy Group didn't listen. They launched a coordinated magical assault, but Pharma, calm and focused, raised a shield and blocked every attack with ease. "They think I'm a monster," but I'm just trying to help people." Though Pharma was far stronger than the members of the Holy Group and could have easily defeated them, he deliberately held back, knowing that using his full power might kill them. Still, the attackers refused to retreat, forcing Pharma to give them a small glimpse of his true strength. With a wave of his hand, he released a surge of divine energy that shattered the ground and left the warriors stunned and overwhelmed. Just then, Solomon, the leader of the group, caught sight of a glowing symbol on Pharma's hand. His expression changed from fear to awe as he ordered his men to stop. "He is not a monster," Solomon declared. "He is our God." Shocked by this revelation, the group immediately ceased their attack and dropped to their knees, apologizing for their mistake. However, Solomon had suffered a serious wound during the confrontation. Pharma, seeing the extent of the injury, told him he couldn't leave him like that. An untreated wound like this could easily become fatal. Solomon, filled with guilt, said he deserved to die for attacking a divine being. But Pharma firmly replied, "A doctor doesn't let a man die when he can be saved." Though he had never performed surgery before, having been a medical scientist in his past life, Pharma relied on his extensive knowledge to operate. He set up a temporary surgical tent in the forest and, despite the high risk, performed the procedure himself. Miraculously, the operation was a success. Months later, a fully recovered Solomon visited Pharma's pharmacy, now promoted within the Holy Group. To show his gratitude and loyalty, he presented Pharma with a sacred gift, a holy stick. The moment Pharma touched it, the stick began to glow brightly. "It has chosen you," Solomon said with reverence. Ellen, curious, asked if she could hold it too, but when she reached for it, the stick passed straight through her hand. It became clear the holy stick recognized only its true master.